Hello, 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 and welcome to the Stress to Success workshop. I'm excited that you're here. I am your co-host, Lorna Sherland, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Wendy Watson, and we are excited to share this workshop with you. It's going to be fast, it's going to be furious, it's going to shift you, and it's going to make you more money. But guess what? Only caveat is if you do the work. So if you're new to me, I help female entrepreneurs who have plateaued in their business to find the right strategic partners to scale and skyrocket their business and income with really vetted leads. So what would your business look like with vetted strategic partners who have vetted leads who can create more income? Your ideal customers. Wouldn't that be great? So we're here to show you that, yes, that's what I do. And if there are things in your life, in your beingness, in who you are in the world, how you show up in the world, if they're not in alignment, I don't care how many strategies we give you on this workshop, it's not going to work. So here's why I'm here today. I'm here to give you some tools, to give you some awareness, and Wendy is going to give you all the tactics that are going to help you to really shift yourself into creating everything you want, including money, in your life easier, right? Now, that does not mean that there's no work to do, right? But the work that you're going to be doing is going to be, let's say, simpler. Because once I bring you into the awareness, you're going to understand how your brain works, how your body works. Now you're going to be aware. And with that awareness, you're going to be able to shift yourself and create resonance in your body so that you can operate at ultimate peak performance. How does that sound? Yeah.
Yay.
So I'm excited. Wendy, you got anything to say before I jump in?
Man, I'm so glad you and I connected. I don't know how God led us to each other, but I am so excited for this workshop that we're going to teach them because you're going to give them all the tools that they need, and then I'm going to teach them how to apply it. And it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, I love it. 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 All right. So we're gonna jump right in. So like I said, you know, one of the things I want you to be aware of is you're in a fast-paced environment. The world in itself has created an environment that we're always going, always going, always going. And what does that cause? That causes the big S word, right? Stress. Remember, you're at a workshop. It's called From Stress to Success. So if you're here, I know you're in stress, right? And one of the things that you get to do is make sure that you surround yourself with the right people who can actually recognize when stress is existent in you so that they can shift you, right? And that's why we're here. So in this fast-paced world, we're surrounded with stress, and that causes, if you want more money, guess what? Stress really plays a really important role in how your money flows. Because what does stress do? It sits in your body. The cause of stress, the number one cause of stress in the world is money problems. The number one cause of stress in a marriage is money problems. The number one cause of stress in any relationship, right, is money. So, do you think it's a problem? Yes, it is a problem. And that's why I'm here to talk about it today. Now, how do you manage that stress? First, I want to talk to you about your brain. Now, if you went to school, I don't know where you're watching this from, but if you went to school, you learn about your brain, but you may not have learned about the intricacies of your brain, right? And how you actually have control and or can take control of your brain so that you can manage your emotions, right? Your brain is only, let's say, the engine of your body. right? And I want to talk about 3 distinct areas of your brain that I have learned and I am still mastering how to manage each section of my brain so that I make decisions from a different perspective, right? The brain is made for survival. If you're in the transformation world, you've heard that before, but you may not have understood what it meant, right? I'm going to give you an example. So, I came from this country from Jamaica, right? And I've been a real estate broker for over 23 years. And I'm going to tell you this. One, I remember in 2008 when the market crashed, what an emotional experience, right? Well, all that emotion was sitting in my body. Unknowns to me, the things I know now, I didn't know back then. And I continued in that stress for a long time. I wasn't sleeping well. I was driving 15 to 20 hours a day doing work for banks, and it took up all my time in a car all day. I mean, I'm talking about 12 to 15 hours in a car all day. Imagine, imagine driving for such a long time. Just imagine. I mean, you can go on a road trip, right? And you feel how that feels, right? You got to stop every what, 2, 3 hours. Imagine not stopping driving for 15 hours in a day. What did that cause? On top of the stress from the market crash, that caused even more stress on my body. I remember one day I was distinctly, you could see it as I'm talking to you now. I could see and remember the day I was coming down, doing my last stop in my little village in Plattekill, New York, and I'm coming past the post office. And I could sense myself falling asleep, and I swerved off the road. And I caught myself. Like, oh my God, I almost killed myself. And then I pulled over, and I had to sit and breathe for a minute. And I said to myself, your girl Lorna did not come to this country with only $50 in her pocket to kill herself on the side of the road working so hard. But you see, that's what stress caused. Stress caused me to work so hard, not being aware of what was going on in my own body, not being connected to myself. And it almost killed me. So I share this with you to show you how sneaky stress can be and how stress can cause you to be in this busy energy, right? That's not productive. There is a distinction, by the way, busy versus productive, right? They're not the same thing.
No.
But it's a huge distinction. And I remember when I learned this thing, right? Because remember, I've been going. That was a pivotal moment for me when I plateaued. I plateaued in that moment, right? Because I almost killed myself, right? So I got there, and what that caused for me was to wake up. And because I woke up, I started on this other journey towards transformation. And I share this with you because it was in that journey that I learned that busy and productive were not the same thing. So have you been thinking that busy and productive are the same? See, because you can be productive in less time in a day if you have targeted um uh like things to do, right? Like if you put targets on what you want to do in a specific time with focus, you can get there without the stress. So I'm going to invite you to think about if you're busy or if you are being productive. Busy or productive?
I'm productive,
Right?
although I used to be busy.
Yeah, right. So here's the thing, Wendy, you had to learn, something happened,
Yes.
kind of like what happened with me in the car. Something happened that caused you to be like, whoa, this is not it. right? Because I was busy, 15 hours, I was driving. So I was gonna share this piece of it, but let's jump in here and add this in. What that caused, that plateau caused me to learn a thing called leverage. Because remember, I was driving 15 hours a day, 12 to 15 hours a day, right? I used to leave at like 5 o'clock in the morning, go. I drove 4 counties, y'all, 4 counties. I think about it now, I'm like, oh girl, you're better. You right? And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just, now that I'm sharing this with you, I'm thinking about what I did, and it was a conscious, I'm sorry, an unconscious competence that I had, right? But what it taught me was leverage, and I want to share this with you because it's right in line with the productivity versus busyness, right? That's causing you the stress. So when I plateaued in that moment, one of the things that I realized was, I don't get to do this on my own. I really don't get to do this on my own. And what that caused me to do was to build a team around that piece of my business. And what that caused was leverage. So now I was no longer on the road, right? Once I build a team, I had to find the people to put in the positions that I was doing so that I was no longer on the road. It came to a point where I didn't even, that part of the business, I didn't even touch it, right? Because I built, and now that's productivity, right? Because of that, it actually increased my bottom line, even though I paid people. I want you to hear that one more time. Even though I got my leverage, it still increased the bottom line, even though I had to pay others. Now, what you get to decide is what's more important, more cash or wholeness, right? Because at the end of the day, the wholeness is still going to be valued more, right? Yes, you're going to make more cash, but really, you're going to be even more wealthy because you're going to have time, you're going to have cash, and you're going to be healthy with no stress, right? And I mean, you can't just count the money by itself. You got to count everything, right? So I just want you guys to, I'm going to pause right here and let that sink in, because if you get this piece of it, everything else is going to line up. Leverage is the name of the game. But it took really something really almost life-threatening for me to see it. So that's why I'm here sharing it with you. So I think at one point we had like, I think it was like 5 people on the drive-in team. I had like another 3 people on the data entry team, right? And I had somebody who managed everything. So it literally took me out of that piece of the business. And then let's say I made at that point we ended up starting to make like $15,000-$20,000 a month. Guys, I was making, I'm laughing at it now again. I was making 1/3 of that on my own. But I was driving, I was doing the data entry, I was reviewing it myself and submitting the order myself, right? So think about it. I hired 5, how much did I say? 5, 3, 8 people, right? The income went up to 15,000, but then I was making the same money, but I wasn't on the road because I only paid out 50%. It was like, what? So I want to show you that. And then I want to also show you how I finally learned how I made that decision. So I'm coming back to the brain now, right? Your brain, you really make decisions from 3 sections of your brain. Your amygdala, which is in the back of your brain, your hippocampus, which is in the middle of your brain, and your prefrontal cortex, which is in the front of your brain, right? I'm gonna say that again. The amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm just telling you what I've learned and what I'm actually in the process of mastering because it works, okay? Now, refer back to my story of the car. right? Back then, I was making decisions in my amygdala, right? The amygdala is the animal brain. It's the survival brain. And when you're in stress, you are in survival. I don't care how it looks to you. You could be wearing the nicest clothes, you could be driving the best car, you could be in the best house. I had all that, right? But my whole beingness was in stress. So write that down. If you're listening to this on the replay, write it down, because once you master this piece, it's gonna help you to figure out, how did I make that decision? Causes way less stress. So again, amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, right? Amygdala, animal brain, flight, fight, or flight, fight or flight. Now, when your body is in fight or flight for too long, that causes stress, right? That causes stress. It causes your cells to contract. You can't breathe. You get headaches. You get migraines. So all of y'all out there who are saying, I have a migraine. Yeah, I know what the doctor is telling you, and I'm not a doctor, full disclosure, but I also know how the body works. If you're having a migraine, it's because your body's in stress. You are not breathing from your diaphragm, right? Because your diaphragm, when you breathe properly, you actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. The sympathetic nervous system is where you are operating from when you're in your animal brain in the amygdala. Okay, so that's the first place. Second place is the hippocampus. That's where all the emotions sit. Now, I'm referring to some of my clients who would be like, I am emotional today. I was sharing with Wendy before we got on this morning. She was emotional this morning, right? I was sharing with Wendy, and me and God had a fight. We sure did. Yes, and it was not pretty. I'm gonna be real. I'm being real. If you're not having a fight with God, I'm gonna invite you into one, because you know what? Other side of it, it's beautiful. On the other side of it is actually where you end up in the prefrontal cortex. But anyways, the emotions sit in the hippocampus, and when you're making decisions from the emotional standpoint, it's you feel like you're off kiltered, right? And one of my mentors always says, emotions are poor leaders. Emotions, write that down. Emotions are poor leaders. This is going to help you manage your mind when you're making decisions, right? Again, amygdala, animal brain, you're in fight or flight, you're in survival. Poor decisions. Emotions in the middle, hippocampus, poor decisions. So how do you manage that? You literally have you I'm not going to even say you get to, I'm going to say you have to breathe, ask yourself different questions. Questions like, huh, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What do I get to learn about myself from this emotion? Because here's the thing, guys. I believe the body is a symptomatic machine. If there's anything going on in your body, it's because there's an emotion that you haven't healed, an emotion that you haven't recognized, an emotion that is stuck in your body, right? So asking yourself different questions when you are in an emotional state will actually help you to calm your nervous system, in addition to breathing exercises from your diaphragm. And Wendy's going to go into more of that kind of stuff, so that you can have the practicality of it, the actual tactic as to how to move through that, to move you to the prefrontal cortex, which is where you're calm, you're making decisions from a state of calm, a state of peace, a state of awareness, a state of knowledge, a state of, you gathering all the data to make your decision. I'm gonna pause right here. I'm gonna say this. Make your decisions from data, not drama. I'm gonna say it one more time. Make your decisions from data, not drama. The data is fact, numbers, kind of like in real estate, right? When I teach real estate, investors how to invest in real estate 101, I always tell them zero emotions. Zero emotions. Let the numbers tell you how to invest. And it's just the same thing here. Data, not drama. Facts, not emotions, right? Emotions are the drama. Facts, data. So, like, if we can get this stuff mastered, I hope you're making notes on this, because if we can get this stuff mastered, it makes it so much easier to make decisions. Can you see that? Makes it so much, so much, so much easier. All right. So when you're in your prefrontal cortex, that now brings you to a state of focus, right? Before I go any further, Wendy, how am I doing on time? Because I know I talk like a fast like a Jamaican, but because I am a Jamaican.
You still have about 20 minutes, gal.
Okay. 20 minutes. Really? Okay. So I wanted to talk about focus. Because focus, when you're in your prefrontal cortex, what does that look like for you, right? Now, one of the things I do in my daily practice is I'm not perfect. I always put that disclaimer out there, right? Because we're all not all perfect. We're all on this journey, and we're really just trying to make it work. I don't like the word try, but we're making it work with what we know, right? So what I do is I actually put in focus time in my calendar to focus on the one thing. So let's say, for instance, this morning, coming on to the workshop, I knew I had to do my notes. So I finished all the things I had to do early in the morning so that I could focus time on my notes right before this event, right? So when you're focused, you actually get the stuff done faster. Yesterday, had a deadline. My ebook is coming out called The Disconnect of Connection. Funny. Right. And I had a deadline to get my edits back to my ghostwriter by yesterday, along with my graphics and all that stuff. So had to put focus time, stop doing everything, and do that so that I could meet the deadline, right? So focus time really helps you to be productive. Here we go again. Productive versus busy, right? That focus time is super, super, super important. All right. So the last thing I wanna go through are the 5 steps to really managing your mind so that you're not feeling stressed. Or if you're feeling stressed, this is gonna help you to move through the stress and get to the other side of it. So again, you can get to the prefrontal cortex of your brain to make decisions from data, not drama. So the first step, I mentioned it before, is awareness. Now, awareness it's a little bit tricky, right? Why do I say that? It's because we're used to being who we are, right? We're used to being who we are. You know how people will tell you, oh, that's just how I am. I don't, that's just how I am. Well, okay. How's that working for you? Real question, right? How is that working for you? Right? Because if you're not getting the results that you want and you're stuck in, that's just how I am, there's no room, there's no openness, there's no possibility there for any change, for anything new to happen. Can you see that? So the first step is awareness. And that comes right back to your brain, right? Like, where are you in the brain? Where are you feeling that stress in your brain? And what is the brain trying to tell you that you're experiencing? Okay. So the awareness then leads to the second step, which is acknowledgement. Remember, I talked about asking different questions when you're in the emotions. The questions are going to lead you to the answers that are going to be like, okay, so let's say you're feeling the tightness in your chest, right? Once you feel that tightness in your chest, you know that you're either in your amygdala or your hippocampus. So you ask yourself the questions, why am I feeling this tightness in my chest? What's happening inside of me What are my thoughts that are going through my mind that are causing my body to respond in this way? You literally get to ask yourself that question, right? And once you get that answer, you be like, huh, okay, got it. I acknowledge the feeling. I acknowledge the feeling, right? You thank the feeling, right? And you're like, okay, I got it. Third step, responsibility. How do you respond to now all the information that you have about what that feeling, what that emotion was sharing with you? See, responsibility is a funny word, right? That word does not mean duty. It does not mean taking on anything. It simply means how you respond to any given situation. That's all it means. How are you responding? How are you responding to the emotion? How are you responding to words? Right? Are you going to be receptive? Are you going to be open? Are you going to be, whatever word comes up for you? The response is going to determine how, step 4, integrous you're going to be with whatever is happening. Integrity just means you being true to you, you being authentic to the awareness, the acknowledgement, right? You being responsible for how you're taking this all in. So, like, for instance, now I'm teaching you all this stuff. How are you going to respond to it, right? Based on the new information I'm giving you and looking at it to become even more aware of who you've been up until now, and then responding in a way that causes you to be in integrity and authenticity with who you really are. And then step 5 is accepting this new information about yourself, not from a place of history and the past, but from a place of present, now, awareness, acknowledging who you really truly are. And I can guarantee you, it's going to shift you. If you take this on, it's going to shift you because now you're going to be this person who, this is new for me. But you're going to feel it in your body, right? Because it's going to shift the energy in your body. You're not going to feel that stress anymore. You're going to be open. This morning I told you I had a fight with God, and believe me, it was tense. It was tense. It was tense. And then once I moved through it all, went through the awareness, acknowledged the feeling, cussed God out, right? I was like, okay, God, what is this, right? And then move the emotions out of my body in responsibility, because that's what I got to do. My response was moving that negative energy out of my body so that I can receive, right? Receive the love for myself. None of this is outside of money, guys. None of it is outside of money. It's all energy. Every single thing. Wendy's coming up and she's going to tie it all in a bow for you, right? None of it is outside of money. All that I'm sharing with you, if you don't clear this piece of it, the money, you're going to still stay stuck. So take it on, be aware of the emotion, acknowledge the emotion, be responsible for how you're responding to the emotion that's coming. So when I say that, I just want to tie this up a little bit tighter with the responsibility, right? When you're in that responsibility, it's a matter of you again responding. So my response was to do a can never pronounce the word, a catharsis on myself. What does that mean? I move the energy through crying, snotting, screaming, all the things, beating the bed, beating the pillow, doing all the things energetically to move the energy out. That was my response, right? And then I got to the place where, you feel peace. This is me. This is where I get to live, right? And then accepting, being in gratitude for the experience instead of staying stuck in that experience for an entire week, right? That is the whole process. So again, awareness, acknowledgement, responsibility, integrity, and acceptance. All right. So let me look at my notes. Let me make sure I gave you everything I got. Oh, I have one more juice. How much time I have? That 20 minutes probably just went away. Um, the only one other thing I would love to invite you into is a big question of what do you value, right? What do you value? Because a lot of times it's because we're not in connection with what we value at our core causes the stress, right? That causes that amygdala to flare up, right? That causes the emotion to sit there for a while, right? Most of us, at least 80% of us in the world, live between our amygdala and or hippocampus, right? It's the other 15% that have mastered are still mastering the way to move to the prefrontal cortex that's causing them to make all this money that they're making, right? Because they're making decisions not from an emotional standpoint, but from a standpoint of doing research and having data to help them make decisions, right? So what do you value? How do you value it? I don't think we have enough time for me to go through that exercise, but I want to share with you if what I said landed for you and you want to take this a little bit further, I would love, love, love to jump on a connection call with you to go over how this works for you specifically and how I can support you in moving things through so that you move from stress to success and whatever success looks like for you, whether that's money, that's relationships, anything that you want, you know that you want at your core. I'm not talking about superficial stuff. I'm not talking about, house and cars and all that kind of stuff. Because here's the thing, once you do these exercises, that stuff is just going to automatically show up. So join me for a connection call. We're going to have the information in the chat, I believe. Where are we putting it, Wendy? But we'll have it in the replay. We'll post it somewhere for you to see so that you can get connected to me, hop on a call. Let's move through this and let me support you and get you to the other side. Wendy, you're up, girl. Bring it.
Wow, Lorna, that was amazing. That was such great information. I love it. I hope you got whoever's listening, and if you're listening on the replay, I know that you just got a ton of information from Miss Lorna right here, and I'm going to help you tie everything together. And I'm going to start with my own story of stress to success. So I was working for corporate America. I had just moved to Phoenix in 2003 and started a job in a medium to large computer company working in accounting. And over the years, I'd worked my way up. I'd gotten 3 promotions in 3 years. At the same time, they were also growing. And in 2007, they started outsourcing. So at that time, I was a lead. So I wasn't a manager, but I wasn't a clerk. I was in one of those middle positions. And they decided to outsource, and they decided to acquire 2 other companies all at the same time. Can you imagine the stress of trying to outsource half of what you're doing to another company, to another country, with language barriers and challenges? The cultural differences on how they view work and how they hop from job to job because the next job pays them just 1 cent more. So you're constantly dealing with employee turnaround. So the person that you worked with today may be a different person that you're working with tomorrow. And you've got to start your training all over again. At the same time, you're bringing in data from 2 other corporations that you just acquired and trying to learn their processes and their information and all the things. Right? So we got to the point, or a lot of us got to the point where we were working 10, 12, 13-hour days And guess what happens when they outsource and when a recession hits? Now you've got layoffs. And they're laying off people in 100 to 250 person increments. Just under the amount that they have to report to the SEC. So they're calling people that have worked for them for 15 years on vacation and telling them they're fired. That's corporate America. So we come into work on a Monday and half the people are gone. Your manager's gone. Your senior manager is now gone. And you have all of this workload starting to pile up. And so I got so involved with the busy, right? I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to keep my job because I just bought a house in 2008 at the end of the recession. So now I'm trying to keep my job and I'm working 12 to 13 hours a day and I'm absolutely exhausted. New management's coming in, all the things. I'm now 30 pounds heavy. Literally my breakfast was a Monster energy drink, Hostess donuts, followed by coffee, followed by a soda, followed by whatever lunch I could grab, and then another soda. Like I was drinking probably 5 or 6 sodas a day just to keep the sugar rush and the caffeine rush in order to keep me awake so that I could do my job. I was so busy in the busy that I didn't realize how miserable I was. I didn't realize I had gained 30 pounds. And it was the heaviest I have ever been. I didn't realize what I was feeding myself. And all of that was translating into my relationships at work. Right? If I'm stressed, my communication is going to be stressed. My energy is going to be stressed. If I'm worried about losing my job, other people are going to feed off of that energy. And now, especially if they're under me, they're going to be worried about that, especially if they're below me, right? And they're seeing all of these layoffs. So you can imagine all the stress that was happening. And the best thing that they did for me was fire me. Because I had this house. I had this brand new house. I'd only had it for a year. I wasn't, even though I felt the calling, I felt a calling to get out of the office and to get out of that cubicle because it just felt suffocating at that point. I felt the calling, but there's no way I would have acted on it because I just had this brand new house and I had a new mortgage and it was with my boyfriend and we're blooming on this relationship. There's no way I would have made that decision for myself. So the best thing they did was fired me. And then I had some time to think. And then I had some time to reflect. And I realized what I was eating. I realized how I was feeling. And I realized how miserable I truly and really was. And how miserable I was making everybody around me. And all of this has a role when it comes to finances. Because if you're stressed about finances, if you're trying to force the finances to work, they're not going to work. It's got to be organic. It's got to be from your heart, your mind, and your spirit. You have to want it. You have to feel it. You have to be in frequency with it. You have to be in frequency with yourself in order to get the qualified opportunities, the qualified sales, the qualified jobs that you want. You don't want to just go out and apply to 100 jobs. You want yourself, your higher self, your spirit to tell you which jobs to apply for, which jobs are meant for you, which clients are qualified clients that should be working for you or working with you, and you are the proper service provider for them. because that connection, when spirit, when your intuition tells you that that is the right connection, it's going to go so smoothly, it's going to go so naturally, and it's just going to flow. You're not going to have those trouble clients that are constantly judging you and questioning whether or not you're doing, or being late on their payments or anything like that. You're not going to struggle with relationships at work if everything is in alignment with each other. Right? So as I was going through my journey after I got fired, and I was like, okay, what do I do? We're in the middle of a recession. They're not hiring for these middle positions anymore. I was underqualified to be a manager. I was underqualified to be a clerk. So they weren't hiring for me, and I didn't want to go back to that. So long story short, I became a massage therapist. Over the last 12 years, I built a very successful massage business in Phoenix, and then got called to move up to Denver. Spirit told me, you're meant to do more. Okay, so I sold my house. I closed my business that I built for 12 years. My dog ended up with a brain tumor and put her down. And it was literally like a clean slate. Moved up to a state I'd never been, didn't know anybody, didn't have a job, and didn't have a plan. All based off of faith, because this is what Spirit's telling me to do. And I'm going to share what Spirit shared with me. I'm going to do a little screen share here. And this is really what it's about. In order to have financial success, you really need to be in alignment with yourself. You need to be in alignment with your nutrition, with your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual values, and most importantly, love. Right? What you are feeding your body nutritionally will determine how good you feel on the inside. Right? Kale isn't necessarily good for every person, but is it right for you? Are you gluten-free, and yet you're forcing yourself to eat corn anyways because that's your habit, or you can't break the mindset of not wanting to eat corn? Are you dairy-free, but God, you just love the ice cream and you can't avoid eating the ice cream? So you take one of those pills, one of those lactose pills, in order to force your body to digest something it doesn't want to digest. This is not being in alignment with yourself. Being in alignment with yourself is saying, okay, I'm dairy-free. My body is not liking the dairy, or it's not liking the cow milk specifically, or whatever it is, and accepting that and finding the things that do work for you nutritionally. Right? So maybe it's almond milk, right? Maybe it's coconut milk, maybe, right? Finding the one thing that does work for you so that you're in alignment with your physical body and your physical energy, so that your digestion is good, right? If you're feeling a little bubbly down there in your intestines and you're not feeling good, you're not going to have the optimal energy to be productive when you're at work. You're not going to have the ideal energy to present to a client to make them want to buy with you. Right? So what does your nutrition look like for your particular body, for your particular needs, right? Because every body is different.
Yep.
Right? So then what is your physical routine? And I don't mean going to the gym and pumping iron for 2 hours. Maybe it's just a quick walk around the lake for a half an hour. Maybe it's just 15 minutes of stretching, right? One of the things I love to do in order to get my heart racing, if I don't have time to go to the gym, is to do 3 or 4 flights on my stairs, up and down, right? Get that. And that don't mean just casually walking up the stairs. I mean, step, press, and actually get the muscles activated. So you don't have to, be lifting 15, 20, 50 pounds. Maybe it's just wall push-ups, but do something that loosens up the tissue, that loosens up the muscles and the joints and gets the blood flowing. So you're not sitting here at the desk stiff and rigid, and you're not getting carpal tunnel while you're typing on the computer all day, or your eyes don't get tired because you're on Zoom for 12 hours, right? Like, setting yourself up with some sort of a physical routine so that your body is moving, whether it's yoga, whether it's qigong, whether it's wall push-ups, finding a way to just move your body. When you don't move your body, your blood flow, your energy, your tissues, everything gets stagnant and it gets stiff. And nobody is going to buy off of that, right? You don't feel good. They're not going to believe that you feel good. They're not going to believe in your product or in your services, right? And if you are, even if you work for someone, if you are stiff, you're going to present yourself that way when you're at work, right? So if you're looking for a promotion, if you're looking for a raise, right, all financial success, then you need to present yourself in congruency with yourself, right? So then we're going to go to the mental. What is your mindset before the meeting? What is your mindset before the project when you go to get working on your report, or when you go to network or to set up a meeting? What is the mindset that you currently have? Are you still frustrated because somebody cut you off in traffic on your way to the networking event? Are you still angry because your husband or your wife didn't empty the dishwasher like they said they would? Right? What is that mindset that is going on in your mind, and what do you want it to be? Right? Because we have a choice. We get to decide what we think and how we feel. So if you're still frustrated from somebody cutting you off before you go into a networking meeting, they're not going to want to talk to you for very long, right? They're not going to want to collaborate with you. They're not going to want to get on your schedule, right? So what do you want your mindset to be? Take 5-10 minutes before every meeting, before every project, before you get started on something, and double check your mindset and set it to what you want it to be. So if I'm going to go into a networking meeting, I want my mindset to be, I want to network. I want to find the people that are meant for me. I want to find the people that I am meant to collaborate with. And I want to be productive, not busy, right? So a lot of this, and a lot of what Lorna said about being aware. Be aware of your nutrition routine. Be aware of your physicality. Be aware of your mental mindset. Then we go into the emotions. Again, the angry or the frustration from previous events. How do you choose to feel going into the networking? How do you choose to feel emotionally? Okay, yes, I'm angry because they didn't empty the dishwasher like I wanted them to, and now we're not going to have any clean dishes for dinner when I get home, and that's an issue, and blah, blah. You're going through the things. How do you choose to feel in your emotional body while you're working on this project, or while you're talking to this person, right? It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be frustrated. Accept it. Kind of accept that it is what it is. It's already done. It's in the past. You can't change it. So how do you want to move forward, emotionally speaking? How do you want to connect with the potential lead that you have, that you're about to meet with? How do you want to emotionally connect with them? Because that's how people buy. People buy because they're emotionally connected to the service provider. People will promote, your managers will promote you because they're emotionally connected with you and they see that you have value, right? So when you lead, when you self-lead from all of these different perspectives, they will see you as a leader. Your clients will see you as a leader, your managers will see you as a leader, your business partners, your strategic partners, they will see, if you lead yourself, they will see you as a leader, and therefore your financial success, you'll go from stress to success in your finances. The fifth point is spirituality. Now, to me, spirituality is very individualistic. So whatever you call that for yourself, I'm just going to let you sit with that for a moment. To me, spirituality is principles, ethics, values, beliefs, all of the core things that are important from a spiritual perspective, from a higher level perspective. Is this person that you're about to meet with, is this networking event, is this potential business collaboration, is this business that you're working for, does it align with your spiritual values? Does it align with your principles, your ethics, and your morals? If it doesn't align, by putting money into something that does not align with your spiritual principles, it puts a cog in the wheel, which means you are, the energy that's going into the finances now has a blockage. So you're preventing the right money that God wants for you, or that spirit wants for you, or whatever that you believe in. The money that is meant for you is not coming to you because you're putting money into something over here that doesn't align with your spiritual values.
So good.
Right? So in fact, I just recently quit a networking group because the leader of the networking group was not in alignment with my spiritual values. And I knew that spending $100 towards that, putting money towards that person every month would prohibit or would inhibit my financial success because it's going against my spiritual values. Right? And then the last piece, and the most important piece in my perspective, is love. Love for money, right? Not a greed. I'm not talking about greed. I'm just talking about a natural, organic love for money and what you can do with that money. Does that mean you're being generous and you're donating, right? Or you're helping out, now you have money to go help out a friend, or now you have money to pay your child's tuition, right? Now you have a love for money, so now that you can retire comfortably, right? A love for the mission that you are on that is going to serve all of these other purposes, right? A love for your client, a love for the business that you're working for, a love, and most importantly, love for yourself in order to do all of these 6 points, in order to be in alignment with all of these 6 points, right? Because you'll notice on the diagram, they all connect and intersect with each other at some given point, right? Your nutrition can affect your emotions. Your emotions can affect your nutrition. Anybody ever have a breakup and go binge drinking or go eat a pint of ice cream? Right? Your mental state can affect your nutrition. Your mental state can affect your physicality. If you just worked a 12-hour day or a 10-hour day, or you just spent 6 hours on Zoom, do you have the energy to go to the gym and now work out? Not likely. But how can you draw? The point is how can you draw from one of these other energies? So if you are exhausted, if you just spent 6 hours on Zoom, or you did a 10-hour day, how can you draw from your spiritual energy? How can you draw from love? What can you eat that will provide you the energy to then go work out? Right? So if you can operate, the idea is that you operate in alignment with this 70% of the time. It's impossible to be in complete alignment 100% of the time, because there's always going to be something that throws us off. And this comes to the best quote I've ever heard. It's not about being triggered. It's about how much time you spend being triggered. And I'm going to say it one more time, and then I'm going to pause and let you sit with that for a minute. It's not about being triggered. It's about how much time you spend being triggered. What tools in your toolbox do you have to get you out of the trigger and get you back in alignment so that you can focus on what your true mission is, so that you can focus on your nutrition and focus on all of these things that is going to bring you the financial success that you want? Does that make sense?
So good. Oh my gosh, so good. It's so funny, right? I just love, love, love how things always work, right? Like we we had a minor discussion about what we were going to present today, and everything is so aligned. So I am so excited for you guys to really tap into this, rewatch it, make notes. Um, like I made some notes myself because I never listen to any speaker and not make notes. Just saying, right?
I saw you making notes.
So a couple of things that I want to tie in as well is the sugar, right? The sugar and the stress. Okay, guys. So, and I love that you did the biological piece of it, the nutrition piece of it, because that's so when we're eating that sugar, that's the amygdala, right? That's the animal brain activated and is causing the hormones and all the things, right? The dopamine, the sugar is dopamine. It's no different than shooting up drugs in your arm.
Right.
It's a dopamine high. So if you know that, right? And remember I said the awareness, what and asking yourself, well, what is this emotion trying to teach me, right? If you start asking, that's one of the tools, right? If now we've given you the information, it's not just the sugar. Your brain it has hormones in it. That get activated when you get into a stress situation, right? When you get into a stress state. So that sugar is actually giving your body dopamine, and then you're gonna go on that high, right? And then what's on the other side of the high? Crash, right? So you see the roller coaster that you've been on, you can manage that with this information, right? You can manage that with this information. And guys, here's the thing. I know for me, and I know Wendy, it's the same thing. We're not telling you things that we haven't experienced. This is stuff that works if you apply it, right? If you take on the information as, let me see how I can implement this in my life. Because up until now, I've been operating in a state of if society says it's true, then it's true. Well, what if you start thinking for yourself? This is the reason why I started with the brain. If we start thinking for ourselves, it's a whole different conversation. You will not end up in the hospital asking the doctor to give you a pill to alleviate a pain, because you'll know how to manage that pain yourself, right? See, this self-leadership is that's my jam, right? So
Oh, yes, absolutely. Right. So this is the self-leadership questions that I ask people, right?
yeah.
And so I challenge you, listeners, audience, to go through these questions. What is
Yeah.
your mindset? What is your emotions? Did you eat well? Have you been exercising? All the things that I just went through. But it's also being aware of the person that you're interacting with. It's being aware of the energy of the lead that you're talking to, or the cohort, or your manager that you're talking to. What emotions are you picking up from them? Are they
Mhm.
responding to you? What is their body language saying? Right? Because if you're not speaking their language, they're not going to buy from you. You can still speak your message, but if you use their vocabulary, or if you pick up on their emotions, or you pick up on their body, like, if they're sitting like this and they're frustrated or they don't believe you, they're not going to buy from you, right?
Around.
But if they're leaning in and they're listening, right? And so how can you adjust your vocabulary? How can you adjust your energy when you're presenting a meeting, or when you're having a one-on-one with a lead, whatever the situation is? How are you observing your audience, and how can you adjust your own message, be true to yourself, but how can you adjust that to their language and their vocabulary so that they'll be more in alignment with you and they'll be more on board with your presentation?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the other piece I want to mention, based on what you just said, Lorna, about an adrenaline rush and the sugar. Stress produces an adrenaline rush.
Mhm.
That feeds an excitement in your body, right? And so it feels like you just got a sugar rush. It feels like you just got this huge rush going on. And sometimes that can be addicting. So the stress can become addicting because you're always looking for that high.
Mhm.
But what happened, just like sugar, what happens after the high? You crash, right? So how can you manage your stress levels by doing all of the things that we talked about today and implementing them so that you don't get this huge stress adrenaline rush,
Mhm.
and then you get home and you crash, and now you're not present with your kids,
Mhm.
and now you're not present with your spouse, and now you're not doing the self-care routines that you need to do outside of work,
Right.
right? They all interconnect with each other. If you can keep the stress adrenaline rush to a minimum, and therefore the crash becomes a minimum, then you still
Yes.
have the energy at the end of the day to be able to switch from work to date night and be
Mhm.
completely present with your date, right? Or switch from work to family mode and be completely present with your children,
Yeah.
right? And this is where all the success comes in.
Well, I want to
So,
add something in before you
yeah,
you move on, because
yeah,
see, I love that you talked about the body and how it responds to the stress, right? So imagine that stress response, and then now, because it's I don't know if it's a trained or an innate thing in human beings to eat in stress, right?
trained.
And most of the time we eat the sugar. So imagine the body's already producing that high adrenaline, right? And then now you're eating sugar on top of that to quote unquote feel better, right? And so this is the awareness, right? To come into this conversation with this information that we're giving you is to understand what's happening so that you can shift it, right? Because if Wendy just taught you that your body automatically creates the adrenaline, right? And shoots up the dopamine high, right? And then now you come and you put additional external sugars into your body. Now you see why the crash is so big.
And
Because
then
now,
what
go ahead.
and then what happens on the crash? You get home, you're exhausted, you have a glass of wine, you have a beer. So now you're then adding an antidepressant on top of the crash. And then you wonder why you're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
And why
No
you didn't get
energy.
enough rest, you don't have the energy, and now you're waking up groggy every day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a vicious cycle. It's a
It
vicious cycle. So
it
I'm excited to
is.
share this with because if we really take this on, it's gonna be life changing. Um yeah.
Right. So
Um
these are the points that we have been talking about, right? Elevate your energy, be self-aware, be aware of the energy in the room, and be willing to adjust. And ask for help. We cannot operate Earth on our own. So whatever it is that you believe in, and I have no judgment, whatever it is that you believe in, ask for help. And it doesn't even have to be from an existential being. It could be from your manager. It could be from your boyfriend. It could be from your child. Hey, son, I really need you to take out the trash today. Right? You have to be willing to ask for help where you need it, so that you can do the things that you need to do.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I think you pointed that out really well when you talked about hiring out for other things.
Yeah.
Right. You spend the money on hiring out 8 staff members so that you can focus on the things that you need to focus on.
Yep.
Right. So whether it's your kid taking out the trash, or hiring a guy for social media, or hiring somebody for SEO, or web design, or whatever it is, hire out the things that are not
Your
bringing you
wheelhouse.
joy,
Yep.
so that you can focus on the things that are in your wheelhouse that will bring you the money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do we have time for one more point? I
Yeah.
want to just because it's an important point. All the
Mhm.
ones I wrote down are important because you were good, girl.
Thank you, honey.
So making decisions for yourself versus making others make the decision, right? So that goes right back to what I talked about with the parts of the brain that you get to master, because making those decisions, you called it from the higher self, same thing as a prefrontal cortex, right? That's where it's the same thing. I'm just using scientific terminology,
Mhm.
you're using other terminology. It's the same thing, right? So really moving yourself into the conversation of how can I manage my mind so that I make a decision not from a place of survival, scarcity, or anything like that, and move it into a decision again coming from facts, coming from wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and really coming from a vision standpoint, right? And that's a whole nother workshop, with a vision workshop, right? So um just really really making a point around that, because a lot of times, and I've done it too, right, where I've made decisions from the emotional standpoint, and it doesn't work out, and then I'm like, oh, why didn't that work? Oh, I was emotional, right?
Mhm.
So being aware of how you make decisions is huge, and it doesn't get to come from an external standpoint, right? You make better decisions when you make the decision from an internal standpoint, from your values. You talked about, Wendy, spiritual values. Yes. And values, that's why I asked the question, what is your value? A lot of times we have our values in, I'm going to use in the word institution. We have our values instituted in us from our culture,
Yeah.
from society, from our teachers, from our parents, and that, I got to tell you, that makes us inauthentic to ourselves. So it's really, the work really is to do the work to find out, well, what are your values? Because
Yep.
here's the thing, we make values, we make our decisions based on our values. We make our, write that one down.
Yes.
We make decisions based on our values. So being aware of that, I mean, one of my mentors said to me, well, whose rule are you not willing to break? God, what are you talking about? And then he's like, well, your rules, that's another word for values, were made to you by your parents and their parents and their parents' parents. Is that your rule, right? So really becoming aware of that is going to shift your stress level on a whole nother level, because now you're not playing the game of pleasing somebody else. Now you're being true to yourself. So
Yeah,
it's a powerful position to be in.
I fully support that. And I just want to add, I love that you mentioned, I think I heard you say, either you said this word or my mind said it through you, but from that scarcity, when you were talking about
Yeah.
emotions, from that scarcity perspective, right? Are you making financial decisions from a desperate mindset because
Wow.
you haven't paid your rent for the month, or rent's about due and you don't have it, right? Are you making decisions because, oh my God, like this is coming up, or I need to do this, or, that desperation or that forced emotion or that forced mindset? And then I love how you totally incorporated that with, whether you use the word rule or contract or agreements or beliefs, it's all the same language,
Same thing.
right? What agreements did you take on from the community that raised you? And do you agree with that? Do you want to continue with that agreement? Right? Because I know in a lot of other communities, sometimes they will feed you or they'll give you that you don't deserve money, contract or rule. So are you operating your finances from I don't deserve to make $200 an hour, I only deserve to make $50 an hour, right? And how can you change that? Do you want to continue with that mindset? Do you want to continue with that agreement or that rule or that value? Or do you want to change your story? Do you want to change your literature and be like, no, I don't agree with that. I do deserve to make the $200 an hour. Because when I make the $200 an hour, that gives me the $50 an hour to then donate or do something generous for somebody else. And that is more in alignment with my value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Powerful position. Powerful positioning. Yeah. Connection to your value is it's one of the things that, I talk about making a decision from desperation versus inspiration, right? From desperation, kind of like that goes back to when you were talking about how your body feels tight and stiff. When your body feels tight and stiff, remember, everything is energy. So if the body feels tight, as you're saying it, I'm even thinking in my head, well, where am I feeling tight or stiff? Let me move. Let me get this thing going, right? Because again, the awareness, right? So just being cognitive and aware of where it is that stuck feeling in your body, because wherever there's a stuck feeling in your body, it's going to stop the money from flowing as well, right? I don't care how much money you make. Okay, let's say you're making $1 million right now. If you're listening to this and you're making $1 million, yay, kudos to you. But what if you could make these little shifts that we're talking about and double it, and now you're making 2 million? Imagine your life making double the amount of money so that you can give more, you can impact more, so that you can take your family on more trips, whatever it is for you. These little things that we're sharing with you are the things that are going to shift you if you take it on. Try it on, right? It's not always the tactics, right? Who was I listening to? I think I was listening to Russell Brunson the other day. And Russell is this guy. I'm telling you, watch out. He's on a whole different trajectory right now. He's all about the mindset. He's all about bringing back the old school masters back into our awareness, so that we can really tap into the wisdom that they left us And it's all around mindset, energy, all the things, because we are energetic. I don't care what anybody says, our bodies are just electrons and neutrons vibrating.
Yeah. If
You know?
you feel like you need some inspiration, if you feel like your creativity is being
Yeah.
stifled, right? You've been
Yeah.
working on this Canva document or whatever, or report, and you're feeling like that's just stifled, get up and go dance for a minute.
Dance.
Get up and just
Yes.
go take 5 minutes to walk outside and get your body moving, because that will reinvigorate the creativity, and that will reinvigorate the inspiration. And the best way to build muscle, including the brain, is to work on it for a little bit, give it a break, and then work on it for a little bit. So just giving yourself a break in between projects. If you notice that your cognitive ability or your problem solving abilities are getting stifled, go take a break.
Yeah.
Go take a
Yeah.
break, get re-energized, get re-inspired, right? Use imagery.
Yeah.
Envision, if you're in that desperation mode, envision what you want your life to look like. You have to, in order to achieve it, you must see it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
envision it in your mind first, create what it looks like. And then every time you go into a meeting or you get something or you need to work on a project, envision that goal and be like, this is what I want. This is what I'm working for.
Yeah. Powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
So
All right.
I'm excited. So how do people connect with you, Wendy Dia?
Yes. So here's my QR code. For anybody that scans this link and books an appointment with me, I will give you a free training video. Let's just talk. Let's just see where you're at. Like, there's no pressure on this. I just want to talk to you. Let's see where you're at. Let's see if we connect, right? Because I want to work with you if you want to work with me, and if we both feel like it's in an alignment with each other,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
let's just have a conversation. Let's find out where you're at. Let's talk a little bit deeper, and let's just see what we can do together and how we can help each other.
Yeah. This is yeah. And a lot of times people come to these workshops and it's a high energy pitch.
Right.
Well, for me, Wendy, and I know for you, we want to make the connection first, to see if it's the right fit. We're excited about the people we get to help and support in this world. And so it has to be a right fit, or you're not going to do anything. I've experienced that before where, clients come in, they don't do the work, then they say, oh, the coach didn't work. Well, did you do the work?
Right.
Like, you got to take on the stuff that we're saying that works for it to work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
You have to
I'm
be
excited.
committed.
Yeah, I got to be committed. It doesn't work without commitment. So I'm excited to talk to anyone who would like to hop on a call with me. Again, the information will be attached somewhere in an email or somewhere in a replay or somewhere on a QR code for you to get connected to one of us to support you in shifting your stress so that you can experience whatever success looks like for you, right? It
Yes.
doesn't have to be money, but the money does touch everywhere of your life. So I'm excited to hop on a call with you. And before we hop off here, because I know this is going to be out in the world in the next couple of days, I am inviting you to the Accelerate Her Summit next Thursday, March 28th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, where if you're a coach, you're a speaker, you're a service provider, you'll be able to come and get even more tactical information about how to grow your business and your income with different strategies. I'm going to be talking more about this kind of stuff, the mindset you get to have, because again, now, I don't care how many strategies I give you, if you're not connected to your vision, and if you're not in the right mindset, if your energy isn't aligned, then you will be spinning. So come to the summit, learn from our masters, and stay in our community, and let's grow together.
Yes.
All right,
So
Wendy.
I will put your contact information in the
Yeah,
comments when I post
yeah,
this on social media.
Yes.
so that they can contact you, visit your website, sign up for your conference. And I have a multicultural healing summit coming up where I'm going to have 6 speakers talking from Latino, Italian, BIPOC, Nigerian, European, and American trauma, what that looks like, how we overcame it, what are the stigmas, and how we can help you, give you tools on how to move forward if you're in one of those communities. So, Lorna, I just want to thank you so much for your time this week on this call and all of your valuable insights and knowledge and tips and tools for everybody on this workshop today. I think this was fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes,
I'm excited.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for much
All right.
for watching the replay.
All right.